That's probably how it's going to be, though.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, it's the weekend.
So they still cut out whatever you cut out.
I hear it.
So you can click on the brightness now.
So how'd you that where it was?
No. This is the main streaming, and this is if you wanted to change the brightness in there, and then active feed, you can open up that
I know her. I just went shopping there for the
how'd you get to that part? Oh, you went to the step. Okay.
That's why I actually got it, because and so you can zoom in.
Sai was at the same. He was enrolled in class. Yeah.
You what this?
I only changed the brightness to press.
I think I'm good. If I need your help, I'll just give you a call. If I need to give you a call or something like that. Another 30%.
Somebody's charter. Like Carol's charter. You don't want to do that, because that's the main thing that you want to do. It drains a lot.
Right. Is she here?
I'll ask her.
Yeah. Who's playing?
Sorry.
I know this is gonna be.
I don't think so.
Yeah.
You good?
Is that our alarm that we're supposed to start?
I hit the wrong button on my watch.
Somebody wants us to start on time for sure. All right. I think we can start.
Yeah, okay.
All right. Well, are you guys ready? Everything good? Okay. All right. Well, welcome everybody. It's so great to see such a big crowd here. I was concerned when I sent out the reminder. I got several emails back about, is this going to be available later for people who were working? And I guess I need to make that clear just for everybody's information. When we do, I should probably just say streaming instead of live streaming, because it is available after the fact. Anything that we live stream, there's an archive at that link that you can go and view at a later time. So like there's Grandparents' Day there and several other things throughout the year. In fact, stuff from last year, if you want to go back and look at any of that. So just to be clear, so that way people who couldn't make it to this can still get the information. And I'll send that out again after we leave. But you guys won't need it because you're here, and I'm so happy you are. So I'm going to start with a quick word of prayer, and then we will jump right in. I know you want to hear from the teachers, those folks, more than me today. So that's what we want to spend most of our time doing. Okay? All right, so let's pray. Heavenly Father, we just thank you so much for this day and for all the opportunities you've prepared for us this day. I thank you for each family and student represented here today, and just for, I just thank you that you've brought them to Grace in the past and that they're considering staying here for sixth grade, God. We know that this is a busy time, a busy season for these families, and that these parents are working really hard to prepare their children for success in their future. And we just ask that you continue to bless each one of them and help us at Grace to see how we can best come alongside them and support them during this time of transition, God. We just ask that you speak through us this morning, help us to be clear about what sixth grade looks like here and all the opportunities that lie ahead for their children, and just to bless our time together, God. And we thank you and praise you and ask these things in Jesus' name. Amen. All right, so really quickly, if this will, hold on, I'm sorry. There we go. Okay, so I want to do a few introductions. First of all, I'd like to point out that our upper campus principal, Mandy Gill, is here in the back. Because we are hopeful that if you stay for sixth grade, you're also going to stay and transition up to the upper campus the following year. Mandy likes to come to this so she can answer questions that you may have about just middle school and high school in general. And there's lots of information in your packets as well that will be helpful for you as you think about middle school as a whole, not just sixth grade, and then even high school and beyond there. So please feel free to look at that at your leisure. We'll refer to a few of the things in there, but more of it is just for informational purposes for you to look at on your own time. Okay, so Mandy is here. Eric Bradley will be joining us in just a bit. He had another meeting, but he'll be coming down too in case you have any, big picture questions for him as our head of school. And then, of course, I have Mrs. Green, our assistant principal, here with me, and she's going to share a little information with you. And then we have our sixth grade team here. Not everyone was able to join us. We do have at least one of them upstairs still kind of keeping the sixth graders and have some covering for these teachers. We did use able to as many of them as possible. So we have Whitney Spencer, who is our grade level coordinator and our English teacher. We have Anthony Dreesen, who teaches Bible and history. And we have Brittany Oxendine, who teaches PE health and school success. And they'll be sharing with you a variety of things today. We also, those who could not be with us today, we have Courtney Blunt, who teaches science, and Courtney Blunt, who teaches math, and Blythe Roycroft, who teaches science. Just real quick introduction from me. One of the great, we like to see it as an opportunity. Something unique to Grace is that we can take advantage of one more year with your babies. I know to you, they still feel like babies. I have one right there with your kids, and he is my baby. So we can take advantage of this one more year on the lower campus to kind of help transition them into life as a middle school student or an upper campus student. They're not elementary students anymore, and they will be quick to remind us of that as soon as the year's over. I'm done with I have a sixth grader this year, and she last day of school last year. I graduated elementary school day. She wanted to make sure I knew that. So they recognize that there's a difference, but we also recognize that maybe sixth graders coming in at the beginning of sixth grade might not be quite ready for, all the responsibilities that come along with being a middle schooler and a student on the upper campus with the rest of 7th through 12th grade. So we like to think of it as a great opportunity to kind of continue to groom them here on this campus and help with the transition, make it a little smoother and easier for them. And you're going to hear about some of the specific things that we do to help them during that process this morning. Just a quick overview, and you'll hear more specifics about each of these things throughout our presentation. But when our sixth graders leave us going into 7th grade, we want them to have several characteristics and several skills. And so first and foremost, we obviously want them to be Christ-centered. This is, who we are as Grace. They're still going to have Bible every day. Every Bible is going to be integrated into every subject that they have. That is not going to change from what you're used to in elementary school, and it won't change when they go up the street to high school. So, and not just every subject, but every activity. We want Christ to be the center of all that we do. We want them to be creative and critical thinkers, and we're going to talk about how we try to foster that way of thinking more a little later on in the presentation. We also want them to be prepared with those foundational study skills, because we know, I don't know about you guys, but my child, my baby, who is with your children, he doesn't really feel like he needs to study right now. And sometimes he can get by like that. But I know that it's not going to be long before he can't do that anymore. So we want to make sure, if they haven't already got a good grasp on that, which some of your kids may very well be well on their way, we want to make sure that we help them develop those study skills and organizational skills that they're going to need for sure when they get to the upper campus and beyond. When they go to college, we're already thinking about that preparation. So that's another thing that we're going to talk more about. We want them to have a growth mindset. This is a big catchphrase these days in education, but we really do believe in this. We want your children to recognize that sometimes failure is an opportunity for growth. Like, we don't expect you to succeed at everything you do the first time you try it. In fact, if that's what's happening, you're not trying enough. We want to push you harder to challenge yourself and do new things and try new things. And so we really want to develop that growth mindset in the children. And then last but not least, we want them to be involved here at Grace. We know that an involved student is typically one who's enjoying school and growing in ways outside of the classroom. And so there are some new opportunities that they'll be presented with as 6th graders that they haven't been able to participate in yet through elementary school. And so we want to make sure you guys know about all those opportunities. So we'll talk about those. Okay? So at this time, I think Mrs. Green is going to come talk a little more about how we make sure Christ is at the center of all we do.
And first and foremost, we do want, one of our most important things is that your child develops a personal relationship with Jesus, and that your child will love God. And in everything that our teachers are doing, they're going to continue to build upon that foundation that your children got as elementary students here. And they're going to be doing biblical worldview integration in all of the classes. But one thing that I'm really excited about is in their Bible class, it becomes a little better in 6th grade in that Mr. Dreesen and I have talked a lot this year. He's teaching them how to study the Bible so that they have something, and they're covering the life of Christ in the Bible classes. But it's our desire for them to be able to have a tool when they walk away that they can study on their own. And it's not just in elementary school, it's lessons given to them, lessons that they're taught. But in this, they're learning how to truly study the Bible. And we're doing that integration in all of the classes so that they can see how our faith isn't something that's just on Sunday. Our faith is integrated into who we are and in every aspect of our life. And God is sovereign over everything. And you have to begin to learn to see how he is sovereign in different areas of your life. And sometimes I think the kids will think, this is over here, math is over here. It has nothing, God has nothing to do with math. But that, we all know that's totally wrong. So anyway, they help bring those biblical worldviews out for the students to see through every class that they have. And in doing that, we're also, and it kind of all ties together, we want to build critical thinkers, creative thinkers. We know that God is a creative God. We see that in his creation, and he's made us in his image. And so we're creative people. And in that, we're also critical thinkers. So that is a big part of what we want to grow the children into being, is those critical thinkers in everything that they do. And some of the ways that they do that is through collaboration, and they have to learn, to work together, but also giving them strategies to think through things, to problem solve. And I see this as a very huge skill for these students to start learning at this age. And for one thing, I look at my own students who have now graduated from Grace, and they have become very critical thinkers. And I kind of sometimes have to step back, because they both moved away from home now, living in different cities. And when they come back and talk to me about how they're choosing the churches that they want to go to and what they're listening to from the pulpit, and they're trying to match that up with, what they know to be true, and does it really match up? And I know that so much of that has come from Grace and from being here and having the instruction that they have had. Of course, we want to partner with you all, because you're first and foremost going to give them those things, because they see you every day. So it has to be that partnership. It can't be one place and not the other. But we desire them not only to be critical thinkers in that, but in everything that they do. And we see that as the world is changing, you can get information anywhere at any time. I mean, all you've got to do is ask Siri or Alexa, And so they have to be able to think critically, to live in the world and to develop and be viable people in this world, this day and age. So that's the thing that we want to develop in them. We want them to be independent thinkers. We want them to have those higher level thinking skills. And then the curricula, or the different classes that they have in the morning, they have the Bible, history, English, and math. And I want to point out to you that in math, they either have algebra, pre-algebra, or math 6. And that, you have a paper in your little packet that looks like this, and it kind of gives you the progression of math on the back of it if you want to look at that. And then their afternoon classes are science, PE and health, and school success. And I think that school success is one of those wonderful classes that kind of helps teach them how to study and how to be organized, which is a huge, huge skill, especially to take on with them when they go on to college. And just knowing how to organize that time and have that structure, and that's something that school success does, and it helps teach them how to study. So I think those are really valuable things that we're trying to instill in your children to help them be the people that God's created them to be. You're going to talk about school success more.
And I just wanted to add a couple of more bits of information about school success. This is my first year teaching school success, and I would like to say that it's just a fantastic course. It's something that I didn't have as a middle schooler, and I can see now through teaching it the huge just the great benefit it is for our students that they get a course specialized on this. So you can read up there. We do all kinds of things that is supposed to just help them excel in their academics. So we set goals, and we'll come back at the end of the year and look at those and see how they have progressed through. We also spend a lot of time mapping out what it looks like to study and the importance of having a good study space. And even we get to some details even of like, what's a good temperature to study in? Should you be studying when it's like, 80 degrees in your room or something, whatever. And for them, it's kind of like something they've never thought about. And we talk about the importance of temperature affecting, how our brain works and all that good stuff. We also discuss learning styles and how each student, it's different per student, and how some are very strong towards one, some are kind of, spread across the board. They need all types of different learning styles, which is great, and they love seeing what works best for them. It really gives them ownership of their studying as well. We talk about studying and test-taking strategies, even down to the specific type of test question. So how should you look at a true-false question versus a multiple-choice question versus an essay question? And then we also utilize note-taking strategies and different ways to take notes, different ways to review your notes. talk about the importance of reviewing notes within 24 hours to keep it freshest on our brains. And so really our prayer is just that they would use this course to excel academically into the rest of their middle school careers for sure, and into their high school careers as well. So it's a great course.
Good morning. I'm going to talk to you a little bit more about growth mindset. So the concept of growth mindset was presented to me, I think it was 4 years ago, by Mrs. Taylor handing me a book because she knew I had this voracious need to read. And I sat there and I read this book about mindset, and I was blown away because I found out I didn't have a growth mindset. And so it became so imperative to me to teach this to students, to start it young with them and make sure that this was in them. And at the time I was teaching school success, which I love hearing her talk about it because that course is just, it's amazing. I enjoyed thoroughly teaching it until I went part-time. But so I started it in school success, but it became a movement within our school. And as it's reached the other teachers, it's just blossomed. And I think 6th grade is a great place where we really try and hone in on it, especially students in the mindsets there. And they're just, helping them understand that achievement where you are, setting those goals to move forward, to grow from where you're at, and that it's okay to celebrate others and at our own pace. We try and bring growth mindset in the books we read. Right now, we're reading A Wrinkle in Time, and it's a great just reminder of growth mindset, as even in chapter 1, the father says to the daughter, you just learn at your own pace, and it just happens to not be the usual one, and so it is something that they kind of encounter daily. Mrs. Blunt is amazing in the math classroom with growth mindset. They start the year not in the textbook, but in a little unit on growth mindset, and that it's okay to fail. And that's just your first attempt in learning. And what do we do when we do fail, and how do we pick ourselves back up? It's a great opportunity for them to just to see that it's okay, and it's okay to raise your hand and say, I don't understand. So that way we can address that instead of sitting silently and just feeling overwhelmed and lost in those moments. So we really hope to encourage your students as they stay in this growth mindset to try new things. We encourage them to go out for the different opportunities that they have that Mr. Dreesen will talk to you about in a second, what that are now presented to them in 6th grade. Even if they don't make the team, hey, go out and try for it, and then you can see, was it something that you wanted to do anyway? So we really hope to partner with you. That's something in my parent-teacher conferences I always try and come back to, helping your child understand the mindset's everything, and that even if they don't love a particular topic or class or something, there can still be growth and progress there. And how do we help them say, hey, celebrating their effort instead of their ability? So instead of you're so smart, you got such a good grade, it's, oh my goodness, you worked so hard. You studied so hard for that test. I'm so proud of that B that you got because you absolutely put forth your best effort. And so thank you for that. And how we as teachers sort of mimic that lingo as well. So speaking of opportunities, Mr. Dreesen's going to come and share with you some great opportunities for your rising 6th graders.
Yeah, so in 6th grade, we start to see, as you can see on the screen, more opportunities to be involved with school at Grace through the different electives that they get to start taking and choosing from, things that they're interested in, courses to take. You can see them on here, I believe on the right side in your folders, there's a handout that talks about each of the electives toward the back with a little blurb of each. Each one kind of works to pull out those interests, get your children involved in things that they like, and also how to learn through those things. I, for example, like the strategy games class. If I were a child here, that would have been one of the ones I would take, but and I didn't have those opportunities in school. So it's nice to see, and then the kids, they're not just playing board games in the class, they're learning strategies and things that we can talk about then in like my history class, for example, when we see the different civilizations grow and develop. Through that, we also have opportunities for leadership. Like I work with the student council as well, and those representatives are in front at a lot of events and different opportunities that they get to utilize their skills, their gifts, and share with the rest of the school. So that can be kind of scary at first, but once they start to take ownership of those things, they tend to have a lot of fun reaching out and doing those. And then you can see the other opportunities there as well with tour guides, ambassadors, and just opportunities for us as sixth graders, being the older students on the campus, to be involved with the younger ones in those leadership roles that push a little bit differently than some of the other things that we do. And then we have different clubs as well, like the STEM club, the Eagle News Club. They're having a lot of fun with that one right now, making a news program, and the different book clubs and stuff too, where we get the ones who really love to read get more opportunities to do that and share with each other and with the rest of the class. And then sports is the big one for a lot of kids. They're free to try out and join the different sports in middle school. I believe that one is on the left side in your packets. There's a handout for all the different middle school sports that they get to participate in, try out, and join those teams. Just different ways to be involved that we didn't have as elementary students that were progressing into sixth grade, having more opportunity to take some ownership of their life and experience at Grace.
All right, and so we just want to close before you give you guys an opportunity to ask some questions by talking about, what you guys can do to help prepare your children in ways, we know you're already doing a lot of this stuff, but first and foremost, just continue to pray for them and with them. Prayer, we know, is the most important thing we can do for our children, and they're reaching the age where, they've always had a mind of their own and made their own decisions. But as they get older, you have to relinquish more and more of that to them. And you pray that what you have taught them and what we have instilled in them, that they'll use as their foundation for making those difficult decisions that they're going to begin to be faced with. So we can't emphasize enough that prayer is very important, and not just for them, but with them, so they begin to, if they're not already, which hopefully they are, but they continue to see the importance of a steady prayer life and leaning on God when they're, faced with some difficult things and challenges. Also encourage independence. Again, I think our teachers are already doing a great job with this, really trying to teach the kids that, hey, you need to own this. You need to be responsible for your own learning. Mom and dad are a good support, but we need you to start to take ownership of your academics and everything else for that matter. Again, we're not saying just throw them to the wolves and tell them you're on your own, but start, continue to scaffold that for them and give them responsibilities both at home, and then let them, do their own thing here at school. Up through fifth grade, typically, if you have a question for a teacher, a lot of times you as the parent will email the teacher and ask them, or you might tell your child, hey, ask your teacher about this. When they get to sixth grade, they are really encouraged, you email your teacher, you go talk to your teacher. It's important for you to learn, that you need to be advocating for yourself. So encourage that independence. Again, I heard Mrs. Spencer talking about praising effort, not just the accomplishment. Sometimes the accomplishment is in the effort, just trying something new. Really praise that effort. Hey, I'm so proud of you for trying out for the basketball team, or I'm so proud of you for how hard I saw you working to study for that history test, and great job on the B, or even a C sometimes is a celebration for a child. If they're doing their very best and working as hard as they can, and that's what they got, then praise the child and recognize their effort in that, and look for opportunities to grow and maybe make a better grade next time. Again, along the same lines, celebrating with them successes and failures, help them to see that maybe not winning all the time is not a terrible thing. If they choose to run for student council and they're not elected, hey, that's okay. Look at what you learned in the process of trying, and look at the courage you showed by being willing to step out and give a speech to all your classmates and, share with them your heart and why you would like to be a part of the student council. So this is an opportunity, and you learned a lot in the process, so celebrate those kinds of things with them, not just the things that are traditionally seen as successes or wins. And then obviously just continue to love on them. That is, essential. That's what Grace is all about, the loving community. We know that children are not going to perform their best unless they know that they're loved. And, that's part of our partnership. Like, obviously, you're loving them at home, and we want to be an extension of that here at school. Their school family, we want to make sure that they know that they're loved, not just by us, but by God as well, and by one another. That's something that we're working really hard to instill in the children too. So that, I believe, concludes our presentation portion of this meeting. But we would like to open up the floor to you guys for questions. And they can be for any of us or just a general question, and one of us will take a stab at an answer. So do you guys have any questions?
I'll ask that question.
Yes.
Is the success class, is that offered all year, or is that like a per half year class?
Yes, it's offered all year. And I did want to include that we have study hall through that class. So we usually have study hall twice a week, and then learning content 3 times a week. So that they really enjoy having that extra time to study as well, and need it when they're participating in after school activities.
Yes.
How many electives per quarter?
So the electives are year-long electives, but they choose 2 that they participate in. So it's either a Monday, Wednesday, or a Tuesday, Thursday elective. So they go twice a week all year long. Yes.
How is it determined if the child will be in pre-algebra or in math 6?
So there is a handout, I believe it's towards the back of the middle section there, that you're welcome to look at, but I can give you an overview. Basically, we take a variety of factors. We don't just consider one thing most important, but we obviously go strongly on the teacher recommendation based on their performance throughout the year on formative and summative assessments in the class, and just their, the teacher has a good sense of where they are based on participation in class and how well they're grasping concepts, how quickly. But also their performance on the ERB test is considered with the math section, obviously. And then we also do a pre-algebra readiness assessment at the end, towards the end of the school year, which is a good gauge. It gives us typically a good gauge of if the child is ready for that or not. But there's not one specific score or anything like that that will include or exclude them from that class. We look at it across the board. And then the admin team and Mrs. Tessnier work together to make a recommendation for next year. We share that with parents. Typically pretty early in the summer, we get that information to you. Your child has been recommended for either pre-algebra or for math 6. And then if the parent has a concern or a question about it, then we meet and talk individually, and we decide if maybe we need to think about a different route for the child. But we'll make that recommendation pretty much based on those factors. Okay? Yes, sir.
When will parents get the ERB scores?
Very soon. We just got them back about a week or a little more than a week ago. It took a little longer on this campus this year since we didn't finish out on the computers. So it took a little longer to get our scores back. We are working on compiling reports to send home, and Mrs. Taylor will send an email out to let you guys know when you can be looking for that. But our teachers on this campus, our teachers this past Monday began to kind of dig through that data and look to compare last year to this year, and they're looking at individual students' performance. But we'll get something to you guys, I would say soon after we get back next week. Hopefully, I don't want to misspeak, but hopefully, definitely within the next couple of weeks, you should get something. Okay? Other questions? If any of you have questions that you'd like to ask us, individually, we'll stick around for a few minutes afterwards, and you're welcome to touch base with any of us. And you're always welcome to email me or, give me a call if you have a question for me. The teachers' emails are online as well. You guys can reach out to them if you have a subject-specific kind of question. But if you don't have any more questions for the big group, you guys are free to go. But we are so thankful that you came. Yes, ma'am.
So for electives, are you going to have some sort of overview of all the electives for the students before school's out this year?
Yes. A few weeks before the school year's out, we get all the fifth graders together, and we have the elective teachers there to kind of tell them a little about each of their classes. And that's right before we give them the form, and we'll send the form electronically to you along with an email as well, so you know that it's coming home and you can talk with your child about their choices.
Okay.
Yeah. Yes, ma'am. Yeah.
What is the retreat that they go on? I know they're not doing more field trips.
Yes. Well, they do. Yeah, but we want to talk about the retreat.
Sure. So the retreat that we go on in 6th grade is in October, and it is a spiritual retreat. So it is non-academic. It is purely to get together. We go to Camp Caraway in Sophia, North Carolina, so a little less than 2 hours from here. And we have sessions where they, are in God's Word. But then we also have team building activities and just opportunities for them to step away from the busyness, from the academics, from the everything, and really get to make connections with each other. We specifically put them with their friends in little small groups because we want them to have that safety net of a person to talk to if they, want to share something. But then just to kind of build in that, we don't take any parents. We take our team and then staff members from Upper Campus and a few students from Upper Campus. And this is a great opportunity because then when they leave 6th grade and go up there, they have familiar faces and they've made connections with teachers up there and students. We just did a recap in our chapel time with Mr. Welpley, and just to hear them talk about the high schoolers that were on the retreat with us, and they kind of get that idol status, but it's really neat because then they are more comfortable as they go up, and sports is a good way also for them to feel that connection. But so yeah, it's an overnight. We go up on a Thursday, come back on a Friday, and they have a lot of fun. We wear them out, so they usually sleep really good for you when they come back. We also do at least one other field trip. We're looking at 2, but at least one other field trip in the spring, and that one's usually based on our science. So we do something generally animal related.
Yes, ma'am.
I know every child is different, but in terms of amount of homework or time at home with work, what would you say the difference is between 5th and 6th grade?
You have a 5th and 6th grade.
That's true.
I would say it varies a lot depending on the child, though, because it just does.
Depends on their focus, right?
Yes. But I would say they're likely to spend a little more time on homework in 6th grade, but not terribly a ton more. And I think, and you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, I think what the 6th grade teachers, the difference that I've noticed that the 6th grade teachers are emphasizing with our children is, even if you don't have a homework assignment, which a lot of nights you won't, it's really good for you to take a few minutes to study your notes every day so that you don't wait till the last minute the night before the test and cram everything in, because the older you get and the more complex the courses are, the harder that's going to be. So I'd say they usually have math homework, which is not, atypical from what they're used to anyway. And then other things are sprinkled in here and there, but I'd say the studying period, a little every night is the main difference I've seen. Is that fair enough? Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
Someone tuning into our live stream asked, does math determine the group of students your child is in core classes with?
Oh, that's a great question. So the way our schedule is set up right now, and I don't I'm not looking to change this for next year, but if anyone brought up a concern, we would definitely consider it. But right now, the children stay together with the same group of students in the morning for math, English, Bible, and PE or health. And then they have lunch and electives, and then there's an afternoon section that they're with that's different than the morning section for history, science, and school success, right? So it would determine their morning section, but then they have an opportunity to be with a different group of kids in the afternoon. So again, it's kind of like a transition between 5th grade and then 7th grade, because in 5th grade, they stay with that same group of kids basically all day long, sort of what they've done for all of elementary school. And then in 7th grade, they change classes every period and will be with a whole bunch of different groups. But in 6th grade, they have those 2 groups that they're with. Any other? Yes, ma'am.
It's more from a skill. And on the upper campus, what does Bible look like for, is it its own course, or how does that work? Okay.
They go to a Bible class every day.
Okay.
So it is one of their core subjects. Okay. But then it also, the biblical integration is through all the subjects as well.
And do they go to chapel together, or do they go to chapel with just like that Bible class, or is it all?
No, we have a 7th and 8th grade chapel, and then a high school chapel. So there's 2 different chapel times.
And actually, I'm glad you brought that up. Next week, Wednesday, the 13th, we're going to have our 6th graders, not your children, but our 6th graders are going to get on the bus and go up the street, and they're going to, second period, Ms. Gill and maybe some of the students, the older students, they're going to give a little presentation to the 6th graders, kind of about what to expect when they come to the upper campus, and then they're going to get to go to chapel with the 7th and 8th graders during 3rd period. So.
And we do that a few times a year, so they kind of have an idea of what that looks like.
Right.
Second semester, it'll be a little bit of a longer time where they actually go into a couple of classes as well. We used to do that first semester, but we decided that it would be more fun for them to wait and do that when they are actually anticipating being there.
Right. So. Yes, sir.
2 things. One, the retreat in October is awesome. Just make sure they have good walking shoes.
Yes. Thank you. Thanks for the plug.
And secondly, we were fortunate that our daughter played 2 sports in 6th grade. And I would suggest to you that if your child has any inclination towards that you do it. And one of the reasons was we didn't think about it at the time is the social aspect of it, because they get in the 6th grade and they play these sports with 7th and 8th graders. And then when they go, first of all, they see their influence, which is a good influence, by the way. And secondly, they get to know them, and then when they transition to 7th grade and they get to the upper campus, especially if they don't have an older sibling, they're not going in there, cold, not knowing anybody. They go in there having this set of friends, or at least acquaintances, that see them in the hallway first day. I mean, when my daughter walked in the door the first day, a lot of trepidation, a lot of nervousness, oh my gosh. And then it was immediately upperclassmen walking by, hey, how's it going? Good to see you. Where are you headed? All this stuff. Huge difference. Right. So and that's one thing with sports, you don't think about it, you think, oh, sports, they're going to play sports. The social aspect of it is way more important, at least to me, than the actual playing the games. So just something to think about.
The other thing that's really great for that is the theater department. If they are not an athlete and they want to be more involved with that, students will shuffle up and be in the play with the older students, and then that is a whole community in itself. So those type of things are really wonderful when they're feeling strange and coming up to the other campus. So for 6th grade, I would agree wholeheartedly. It's so, even if they're not front and center on the team, to be involved in some aspect, they will get to know those students.
With band at upper campus, do they play with the 7th, 8th, 9th grader or the high schoolers as well? Are they all together?
So they practice separately. Their time slot is separate. but oftentimes they will play together. At a performance, they'll have a few practices before the performance and then play together. And I know that he would like to do that more. And he's, I think he's really excited about some of the younger students that are doing well with band that will be able to play up as well.
This class of fifth graders, there's a lot of them in band. So yeah. And at Grandparents' Day, the 7th through 12th graders played together, even though they had those separate classes. Yeah.
And then also for the concerts, the spring, winter
Christmas,
concert, spring concert, the theater class, the 6th grade theater, their presentation is with the middle high school, and band, I think.
Band goes with middle.
Yeah, so there's a lot of those type of opportunities where they start to interact with the older students.
What about the strings? I know high school has strings. What age can?
We've actually only done strings for high school at this point. If there was enough need for it, I'm sure she would be willing to do middle school, but we've only ever had like one student in middle school. I think it's just not as prolific.
What does it start with, 7th or 9th?
They would be 9th.
Sorry, since we're getting into upper campus, is there any thought of adding more language classes besides Spanish?
We have Spanish and Latin, and then they can do any other foreign language they want online, but then you would have to pay for that. That would be just during a certain time slot. So some students have done others, we've had Russian, we've had Koreans, Chinese, but they're using that time slot in their schedule. And that's totally fine to do that. If your family has a language that they like, if you have heritage or something, you want them to learn that language, that would be totally fine too.
Yeah. I'm wondering if cheer has been given, I know it's going back and forth. Has there been a decision about cheer next year for 6th grade? Will it be offered?
Well, we have a middle school cheer team for the winter season right now this year. Yeah, so I would imagine that there would be. For the fall season, I think this is a Devin Terrace, our athletic director, question, but I can certainly refer you to him or ask him and get back to you. But some of it is dependent upon interest. So if there are a lot of girls interested, some of it is dependent upon a coach. We have to have someone willing to coach. Sure. And then obviously facilities and availability of, all the resources we need to make it happen. Those are things he has to consider. But we are having a middle school team for the winter, which is a good sign, I would say. A group of girls who are doing it for basketball season. Yeah. Yeah. I think probably in the fall, it's because we have a JV football team and not a middle school one. Maybe that is part of a little bit of a disconnect there. But I guess if there were a middle school cheer team, they could, because I know our 5th grade girls were out there cheering for the JV team this year. So
they loved it.
Yes, they did.
A huge interest. So
they did.
Sure.
I will definitely pass on to Devin that there is a lot of interest in that rising 6th grade group, and maybe we can look at that as a possibility for the fall. Yeah, no problem. Yes, ma'am.
When are tryouts normally for any of the sports, or will we try to get it done?
You will get emails. Coach Terrace sends out emails to all the parents and the grade levels that are involved. So for middle school sports, when it's time for the season to be gearing up, he'll send an email to everyone, all the parents, saying there's an interest meeting for, middle school cheer or middle school soccer or whatever. He'll tell you where and when all those are, so you know about that. And then, once the teams are chosen, and he'll send something out about tryouts, and then once the teams are chosen, the coaches kind of take over that communication.
And you'll also start getting some emails over the summer.
Right.
Because a lot of the teams will start to open gyms and that type of thing over the summer. So you should start hearing from him,
Probably in the spring.
Graduated fifth grade, you'll start getting emails from me.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say too, yeah. Fall sports typically, tryouts are before school starts. So,
Yeah. I have a son that played JV, he's in seventh grade, and it's his first year. But it's interesting to see the sixth graders, how much they're valued and how much they're lifted up. And it gives them an opportunity to have that experience. Bryce didn't play in sixth grade because he chose just to kind of get back into school again.
Right.
Because we homeschool. But if your boys are thinking about playing football, it's good to start in sixth grade, just because you know the folks and you can get the experience, and if they really excel, they might get to play.
Yeah.
And not to say that sixth graders just don't play, but it just kind of depends, and it
Yeah.
depends on how strong
they're.
the ninth
Yeah.
and eighth and seventh graders are.
Right.
So it's a great experience.
Some of them look so little compared to the big boys.
They'll be the big ones soon.
They will, I know, yeah.
The other thing that we often have comments about is just the transition between parents being involved on this campus and parents being involved on our campus. And I think one of the things that really helps you to still feel connected is to be involved with athletic boosters or fine arts boosters, wherever your child is interested. That's where you still keep that community of families that you're talking to, that you're at the games with, and because it is a little different. You're not walking your kids in or, doing some of the things that you would do on this campus. But I always feel like that is the area where parents really do connect with each other, and it's still a great community to be part of.
Okay. Well, we'll hang around if you guys want to talk to any of us individually, but thank you so much for coming today, and I hope you have a great long, maybe not for all of you guys, but for your children, 3-day weekend, hopefully at least.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I gotta go.